All right, Continental Atherton, another team you're close to through Charlie.
Yeah.
We assume Charlie stays. We've heard rumours of Luke Wayman and Elise MP joining the squad. We've seen pictures of a Gearbox bike, and we've now seen Dan Brown's statement that they will be running Gearbox bikes with a Gates belt drive. So, yeah, some cool changes there, and it's going to be interesting to see them and also how they stack up from a points/wildcard perspective to get into World Cup, which seems crazy that we're talking about Continental Atherton in that way.
I know. I think they might have had to make the decision when they knew Andy was leaving as to what do we replace Andy? Do we not kind of try and replace that rider? Do we bring on juniors? What do we do? And that must have been quite tricky for them to navigate and decide what they want to do. But especially with this new bike, I've seen the bike. I've had a little play on it. It's really nice.
It looks so nice, yeah.
And it's like it just. I was saying to G the other day, it just looks right. It's sort of just you know it's an Atherton. You know it's almost like an evolution of that bike. It doesn't feel as though it's a completely bonkers bike.
Yeah.
It just seems to sort of fit. And Charlie's really enjoyed this process. Like I don't know what I can discuss about this, and it's his story to tell. But I think he's quite enjoyed the process of. They've got a very quick turnaround. The way those guys can prototype stuff, and I think he's quite enjoyed getting into the adjustment of how does this work? What happens if I try that? Is this going to work? This is a problem. And he's been pulling it apart himself. And I never really looked at Charlie as that sort of rider. And I think that was something that Charlie wasn't great at. Mm-hmm. He was like, the bike's good enough, but he's almost been forced to go, no, the bike's not good enough. We've got no idea what this bike's like. So from the bike point of view, that would be fascinating. And those guys build a good bike. You know, if you think about it, you've got Charlie racing it, and then you've got the experience of Affy and G. They won't let anything come through that's not going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
But on the same token, when we're discussing the availability of riders and what they're going to do, you may wonder whether we see on the UCI team sheet that G and Rach are being signed back up. You know, like whether they're going to do a lot of races or just one, or the whole teasing. Hey, belt drive, 100k, Rachel Atherton, winningest female ever.
I've had numerous Instagram DMs. Clearly, Rachel's racing. Rachel must be coming back.
Yeah,
like she'd easily get that. And you're like,
and if I want to stir the pot anymore, they were all out at Red Bull last week, and Rachel was there training with them out there. I don't know. I think it'll be hard to, like, Rachel's like one of these racehorses, and you're trying to get her into the starting blocks, and she's sometimes reluctant to get in there. And you get her in the starting blocks, and then poof, she's gone. Hey, we can't catch Rachel. So if they can get her in the starting blocks, I think she might be very dangerous.
It would be a great story, and you could see why if you were Warner Brothers and G and Rach were on the team list, you'd give a wild card. Let's talk about Intense Factory Racing. Joe Breeden, guy you know very well. Fair play to Joe for pulling that team together last year, and then continuing through into this year. So Joe Breeden retains Oscar Griffiths, Louisiana Ferguson, and then Millie Johnson added onto the team, which another like
great move,
raw, incredible pace, hasn't all quite gelled for like consistency just yet, I would say, but surely a podium and potential win threat there.
Absolutely. The two things that excite me about that team setup, well, there's a few actually. One of them is this year you had to me, maybe it was a bit of a strange aligning where you had MS Intense, which was a really big presence, but then you had Intense Factory that was a smaller presence, but they were the factory team.
Yeah.
And now I think that with MS splitting from Intense and maybe all the focus now going to Joe's team, that's probably a real benefit for Joe.
Yeah.
There won't be any sort of like dilution of what Intense can bring.
Yeah.
And I really like the fact they're going to this Gearbox, and it's quite exciting.
It's very exciting.
And Joe's really into the development side of it. He's very savvy. He's very, he thinks a lot. He's a thinker.
He's an I don't think he has training in engineering, but he thinks like an engineer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the stuff that we've like in years past where he was struggling with the suspension manufacturer and the way he was going about to prove the issues that he was having and articulate them was really impressive. I was like, you can't question that. That's brilliant. The way you've explained that. Yeah. So I think from that point of view, it's really good.
And while we're on the topic of gearboxes, MS have announced that they're partnering with Zerode for 2025, and they've got a pretty big squad. So Eleonora Farina, Tuto Enrique Penne, Jacob Dixon, Valentina Rose Sanchez, Gloria Scarzi, and Sebastian Holquin, with Dave Trummer on track doing line spotting and that side of things. That's a pretty powerful lineup, and MS aren't shy of pit setup and all that side of things, they've definitely got a pretty slick operation. Could be interesting to see how that all pans out.
Yeah, I'd say that MS, I think it would be hard to argue they underperformed this year. I think that there was a number of weekends where they weren't there on race day and this huge pit setup was vacant, and that was really sad to see.
Yeah.
And there are various reasons for that, with injuries and what have you.
A team that potentially are going to struggle to get into that top 15 automated qualifying place there, right? Which in itself is interesting because that's a huge investment, a huge lineup.
There you go.
Part of this Gates 100k belted purse for Gearbox bikes. Like, there's excitement around it. We've got some great riders in that list, but like you say, the performance wasn't there in the grand scheme of things for 2024, and that puts them in a tricky position. Wild card, I mean, they do have this very impressive pit setup. It does look very good. I guess that's attractive and like probably the direction that Warner Brothers would like to see things going, as far as pits looking good and having options for hospitality and all that kind of stuff. So I would guess they'd get a wild card, but it is interesting that a team with, I would say, quite a large budget could potentially not make that automated cut.
Yeah, it's a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? Because if it's purely on just the race results, then they're not there.
Yeah.
Simple as that. But if you are at a World Cup and you see their setup and you see how it works and the link with Red Bull and the link with everything there, why would you not want them present? And I think that although there's these 5 wild cards, I do get the feeling as though there's I think there's another 8 sort of race by race wild cards.
Yes.
But you can't sell that to a sponsor. You can't say, hey, I need this much money for the season, but I might only go to one of the races or whatever. I get the feeling as though there's conversations. These teams will be having conversations with Warner Brothers and UCI to go, hey, look, if I'm going to get there, I need some reassurance that I'm going to get there. And I think that, although I don't know, my guess would be that they'd have more information on this than me, because there's no way that I'd be able to go to a sponsor and say, hey, this is what we're planning to do, because I know what their first question would be. Well, are you going to be at all the races?
Are you definitely there?
I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
So there's got to be this, and no one wants that sort of thing to go away. But the problem is if your riders aren't getting to that final and they're on race day, it's not great.
Yeah, let's move on to Aon Racing, which was rumoured to mean all or nothing, or stand for all or nothing. I don't know if that's true or not. Reece can tell us, I'm sure, at some point. And very unfortunately, I think they announced on Friday and we're sat here on Thursday. So when this goes out, it'll be out of date. Rumours around Greg Williamson would be cool. Monica Hrasnik, Heather Wilson, Hattie Harnden potentially.
Yeah.
I know Hattie's also a net performance athlete. I know Hattie has the track connection with Reece, so you can kind of believe that. Reece said in a sleeper video that came out yesterday, that they will also have a free rider involved with the team, which got me wondering about Cade, but I don't know, track tend to keep their free riders, but also Reece and Cade are good mates. Yeah. So, I mean, lots of speculation, but it's cool, right? Sure. This is a team that's come out of nothing, effectively, that Reece has put together. We've got confirmed Junior, Net Performance and Gearbox as sponsors. I'm sure there'll be others announced, but yeah, belt drive. Reece loves thinking outside the box, both in the way he rides and the way he sets up and builds a bike. I'm really excited by this project, and whoever is on that squad, I think it's going to be one of the teams to watch.
I think it will be really interesting how it pans out. If they can get the bike where they want it. I loved watching that Gearbox bike be ridden. One of the juniors was riding it 24 and 23 as well, I think, and it was really cool. And one of the boys on Gearbox I've got to know, again, trackside. So they've got some clever guys in their corner from a bike point of view.
Yeah. And
bringing that program together, there must be a trade-off between size of team, riders we need for the points to be here, and then having that same core focus. And I think having someone help Reece put that together will take a little bit of pressure off, because again, sort of reflecting back to the Joe Breeden situation with Intense, you need that support around you to keep that all working, because there's a lot going on, because you are trying to be an athlete. And I actually I sat and watched that video, his sort of release video, because I was interested to hear what he had to say about it. And he implied that he was trying to hand off and delegate lots of stuff so he could stay focused on the riding, and that didn't surprise me. And I think that he's very clued up guy, a Net Performance, and he'll be bringing that together. And I don't know anything about Greg. Like Greg Williamson, one of those guys that with the sort of closing down of Madison might have been sort of left not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
But I have seen that he's re-signed with Martin Whiteley as his sort of agent.
Yeah.
So whether that means he's more likely to be on the Aon thing or not, who knows?
Yeah.
We'll find out. Yeah, it will come out tomorrow.
Greg, I mean, luckily for Greg, I guess, had some good results last season. Like, he's had a few rough years, so probably put himself in a fairly good position.
Yeah, he's one of these riders that has shown an awful lot of speed, and then sometimes you wonder why it wasn't quite there. But I'd like to see him again. He's got a lot more to give.
Yeah.
And he's a lovely guy as well. So he's one of the guys you want to see there, and being able to feel as though he's got a smile on his face at the end of Sunday, wherever that position ends up. You want him to think, yeah, I've done a good job here.
Definitely. But yeah, fair play, Reece. Good on you for doing something
exciting.
different.
And such a big change from this big sort of corporate Trek thing to going completely turning left.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was quite a well-known thing that we knew it was coming, like quite early on in the season. So it was quite an exciting, a lot of people were chatting about it and how's it going to work, and is it going to work, and are they going to be there, are they going to get the riders, are they going to get the funding, are they going to get the support? So, you know, if that's the sort of the chitter chatter around the pits, you know that he's working his socks off to try and pull it together.
And it's going to be another one of those stories that the real fans want to follow. So it's exciting.
Absolutely.
For sure.